Hi there.
Hi, welcome back.
I'm McCarty,
My name's Kelly.
and this week, first of all, we went to Six last week, and it was so freaking good.
It was really good.
Also really nice to know what was happening.
Yeah.
And to know the real facts. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job about getting the facts. I feel like they didn't emphasize enough that Catherine Howard was a victim. Like,
That she was so little.
she was so young.
It was very good. And the
was so
songs
good.
have been in my head since then.
It's so good. Okay.
Yeah.
Get a drink. Today we're going to do the Sacred Band of Thebes. Thebes, not thieves, just so that we're clear. Also, I kind of thought this was going to be more interesting than it is. It's not interesting, but it's not as interesting as I wanted it to be. But I've already done it, so that's what we're going to be doing.
I mean, happy Pride. This is
Yeah,
about gay people,
this is about
so.
gay people. You know?
It's a good one for the first one of June.
I didn't even know.
We did skip last week because we were done with the Six Wives and we had the show and everything was just kind of chaotic last week. So we decided to skip a video. So sorry about that, but that might happen sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, so Sacred Band of Thebes. Thebes. I don't know why I keep calling it Thebes.
I'll put a little, like, how to spell it on the
Every time I say it wrong. Okay, so the reason this is pride friendly is Sacred Band of Thebes was a band of 300 men who were all in intimate relationships with each other. So basically 150 pairs of men who were lovers. So, and it was a heavily armed group. They were sent in to, like, get the shit done. So that's the definition of it.
I dry shaved my legs and now they really burn.
Yeah. Okay, so they were active in the 14th century BCE, which is before Christ.
The 14th century BCE?
Fourth.
I thought you said the 14th. And I was like, holy shit, that was a long
No,
time ago.
in the city of Thebes, which was in the region of Boeotia in Greece, because they're all kinds of little.
What else is going on at this time? Like, can you
Okay,
orient us?
Yes, so they have just finished the Peloponnesian War. Sparta is like the big.
Is thriving.
Yeah, they're thriving. They're kind of like the big cats in the area. And they are trying to take over Thebes and Boeotia. So this is the first Boeotian War. Or this is like the beginning of the Boeotian War.
And you said Boeotia was in Greece.
Boeotia was in Greece. It's kind of...
I'll put a map.
I have to map. Here's the Peloponnese. Here's Athens. They're kind of like right here. Maybe? I don't know. The Peloponnese is a part that looks like a hand. And then they're kind of Athens. There's like a little thing. And it's over here.
I'll put a map in.
Yeah, it might be easier. Okay, so most of the documentation that comes about the band comes from Plutarch. But the earliest mention of a sacred band comes from the oration against Demosthenes?
Demosthenes?
Yeah. Kelly will write them all. By Deinachus in 324 BCE. So a little bit earlier than Plutarch. And they don't really ever... There are some where it's like, they don't say the name of it, but they say aspects of it that were like, okay, that's...
They allude to the Sacred Band.
Yeah. Okay, so the Sacred Band was formed by the Boeotarch, whatever. His name was Gordius. He was basically the high-ranking elected military figure, and in political office as well. So he set up the band in roughly 378. Is kind of like the date people have kind of set out. BC,
right
before Common Era.
Yeah. Is this before or after Alexander?
Before. Yeah. So, there is a little bit of debate on whether the band was formed before that and then Gordidas, whatever his name is. Gordidas. Yeah, that actually kind of looks what it is, but it's a G instead of a, there is a D. Anyway, if he just kind of reformed it and made it extra special, or if he started it completely out from scratch, we're not really sure. But these soldiers were hand-picked elite men in Thebes, hand-picked based on ability and merit and not social class. So a lot of them, let's see, like the hoplites, I don't know how to... Certain sections were based on, like, wealth and elite class. Like, usually, like, footmen were like the super lower class or slaves. Hoplites, I think, were also sometimes slaves.
I'm not sure.
And then you have
So
like the cavalry
yeah.
and
the higher up you are in the military, the more rich you are, most likely.
Yeah.
You're more likely to come from a wealthy family.
yeah. But this was opposite of that because it's like a really elite, special, handpicked, and they did pick
Is this like the Green Berets,
kind of.
but gay?
Yeah. So it was composed of men who were devoted to each other and had a mutual love for each other. There's also it's like they're beloved. There's also a dynamic in Greece as a whole where a young man is taken under the wing of an older gentleman, and it is a sexual relationship. Where I don't want to get into all of
not
it.
Not necessarily gay.
Yeah, and it's not. Technically, it's pedophilia, but that's in our context. But in the context of Greece, they had a lot of thoughts like the only way you could become a man, or the only way you could get seed, or like sperm, was by getting it from another man.
From an older man.
Yeah. And then some of it was also just like them teaching things. I don't know. It goes into, it's, what is it?
Pediastry?
Yeah, something like that.
Pedastry.
So we have to think of it. There was also little bits like something like that in Japan. So you have to think about it in the context of the time frame. And I know it sounds gross, but at the time.
Well, I feel like at the time, and I don't know if this is 100% correct, but they seemed more open with their sexuality than they are now.
Yeah, well, and also,
like, the Greeks and the Romans were
the Greeks and the Romans, it was only gay if you were being penetrated. Otherwise, it was fine. So they usually used, like, slaves or servants or things like that. Not always, obviously. I'm sure there were perfectly happy gay relationships, but in general, that was kind of how it was seen as. Anyway, so these are handpicked. They have a mutual love for each other. Again, it might have been sexual, it might have not been sexual. It's very hard to say. It just talks about, like, the man and his beloved, and the man and his loved, and things like that. So regardless, they have love for each other. Under Gorgidas, whatever the hell his name is. All these Greek names. Ooh, Higgins, don't show your butthole.
Higgins, come over here.
Right in the middle. Higgins, just because it's Pride Month doesn't mean you can be an asshole.
I'll put a little
flower.
I'll blur his butt.
Okay, anyways, under Gorgidas,
sit down.
they were... Higgins.
Could you get down, please? That's good.
Okay. They were distributed throughout the regular phalanxes, so there was like a few over here and a few over there, whatever. But under...
Like a few couples? Because they always fought together, right?
Yeah, I believe
they would protect each other?
I believe so. That was also one of the things they said, is because, like, they're more likely to stay alive and fight harder if they're also fighting for their love. That was kind of like the whole design of it.
Well, also, how embarrassing if you, like, weren't considered, like, if your boyfriend was sitting there and you were, like, not brave enough to be alive, you know?
Yeah, embarrassing. So, in that, they were, like, in the front ranks of different phalanxes. Under Pelopidas, it was set up as a single unit who were sent out first to cripple the enemy or kill all of their best men. So they were just kind of sent out as a show of force.
So they started out being interspersed in between the regular soldiers, and then they were one unit that would go out before everyone else.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so their first military battle in the Boeotian War was... Okay, so again, essentially it was after the Peloponnese. It was against Sparta, who was trying to dominate all of Greece. So it was basically against Sparta and Thebes.
This isn't like the 300, right?
No. Okay. No. So you have Sparta and Thebes, but Athens is part of Thebes. They're, like, against Sparta.
They're allies.
The allies, yeah. So the war begins with an invasion of the Spartan king. I know how to say this one too. Agesilaus? Agesilaus the second, whatever. She'll put names up. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at pronouncing things. I can barely speak English. So Thebes was allied with Athenian mercenaries, so it wasn't like the official army of Thebes or Athens. It was mercenaries.
They were hired guns.
Yes, but they were still outnumbered by Sparta. Like, Sparta had way more people. And they tried to use that as an advantage. The Spartan king sent a small skirmish to test... What?
I'm just looking at your
hair
color.
To test the Thebans, but was crushed. He was absolutely annihilated. And then he sent his entire army, hoping that it was the show of force that would intimidate Thebes and Athens mercenaries to break ranks. Instead, they were commanded to stand at ease. And there was, so like, the Thebians and Athenian mercenaries were commanded to stand at ease. So they put their weapons down, they all stood there. And there was a standoff. This confused the Spartans, naturally. And eventually they were like,
do we just go home?
like, oh, okay, bye. Spartans. Okay, and there were a few other little skirmishes, but they weren't very important. So, the first recorded victory for the Sacred Band came at the Battle of Tegera? In 375 BCE. The band was severely outnumbered, but still managed to defeat the Spartans. It was the first time that the famous Spartan hoplite, like the phalanx, was defeated by a smaller force. Demonstrated how elite the band was, and really...
Did they, like, train, like, this was their life's work? Like, they trained...
Yeah, like, this was their... I mean, they're handpicked.
Were they already soldiers, and then they were like, oh, you guys are gay, we're forming a gay army?
I don't know. I don't know.
Because, like, what are the odds that two... I mean, yeah, I'm sure that it could happen, but, like, both of the couple, like, both members of the couple are elite soldiers?
They're probably trained in some way.
Or do you think they, like, they were all, like, at the Sacred Band boot camp, and they, like, just paired off?
I don't know. Maybe. We'll never know.
Comment below how you think they met.
Yeah. Was it just, like, by luck, or was it... Did they get turned gay by the gay agenda of the Theban Sacred Band?
Maybe they were just, like, you know how they say gay for pay? Maybe they would just pretend to be gay.
So they could be the elite?
So they could be in the elite.
I don't know. We'll never know. I didn't read Plutarch. Well, I didn't read this Plutarch. I've read other Plutarch, but not this one. I probably could have. I think we have Plutarch's writings. Anyway, so this really solidified that the band should be stuck together and should be one unit or show of force. So their next battle was the Battle of Leuctra. I don't know. Kelly will put it in. This was a very successful campaign between the two. Again, Thebans were greatly outnumbered because the Spartans is a much bigger, like, area, and then also they have, like, the biggest army because Sparta is the army. Like, there's no Sparta without the army.
Well, and at this time there is no, like, Greece.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Athens, city-state, Sparta, city-state, like Boeotia, they're all separate entities, but it's almost, I mean, not really. I won't use that comparison because that's not right, but
yeah, so they're all not combined. They're not united. So this was a super influential battle because Thebes used innovative military techniques, and I'll probably have Kelly throw up the military maps that they use, like the playbook or whatever, in case anyone's interested in that.
I'll see if I can find it.
It's super easy to find. You could just, I'll send you one maybe. So, the new technique threw off the Spartans, leaving the Sacred Band and the rest of the army open to win the battle. So essentially I'm gonna butcher it because I don't know war terms, because you know what's funny though, is because we did learn about this in college in one of our classes.
War is boring. Yeah. Like, sorry.
Anyway, so a lot of times I think you, like, go from the flank and open it up, but they changed it so they went from the front or something.
They went straight up the middle.
I think so. Whatever they did was, like,
revolutionary.
Yeah, it shook the Spartans. So they were like, oh, like, damn, what are we gonna do? So the Sacred Band was at the center of the fight. They used their skills to help win. Obviously, sources in the battle say Theban powered independence from Sparta. Okay, this battle established Theban power and independence from Sparta, because they were like, okay, well, obviously we're not going to take them down. It doesn't last very long because they get defeated at the Battle of Chaeronea. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. So, the Battle of Chaeronea was not Sparta. This time it was Philip II of Macedon. So Macedon is a little country at the top of Greece. It's still there today. At one point, it becomes part of Greece with Alexander and...
Is Philip Alexander's dad?
Yes, so...
This is... Philip II is Alexander the Great's dad.
Yes, so... Alexander the Great is part of the battle. He's, like, in charge of one of the sections of the group. I don't know. Also, Alexander is, like, known for a lot... And Macedonia in general is known for their, like, military...
Prowess.
Like, even there's just ingenuity in their military of changing things and making things a little better. Like, they improve on the hoplite system, which is the, you know, if you've seen 300, they're the ones that get kind of in that, like, the huddle, and they have the spears, where...
Basically, your shield overlaps the person next to you.
Yeah, and everyone uses their right hand for the spear and their left arm for...
the shield.
The shield,
it's
which...
like a round shield.
We should have brought it. I have 2 of them in my trunk, but...
No, they've lived there for 10 years.
Probably longer. So anyway, in the Macedonian phalanxes, they are using sarissas, which are about double the length of the...
They're like 12 feet or something, right?
They're huge, like double the length of the other ones, so that they're able to reach further, and
it's
break...
like spear.
Yeah, and break into that phalanx. So, anyway, that's one of the ingenuities. They have all kinds of new things. They win the battle because of the same things. Talks about how they were, like, mostly matched, the Philip's army and the Theban army, including the Sacred Band. Unfortunately, the battle ended with Macedonia becoming dominant over Greece, and so they lost pretty much the whole country now, like, they kind of go systematically, take over all of Greece, and then Philip dies.
Being
Philip, and yeah. So then Philip dies, and then Alexander does what Alexander does, and literally...
conquers the world.
Yeah. And that's, I think this is in maybe 70... I don't know, like 73, and it'll be a while before Alexander takes over. Because I think he's 18 at this point.
It can't be 73.
Why?
Because that's when Cleopatra comes around. It has to be in the 300s.
Yeah, 375.
Okay, I was thinking you meant 73 BC.
No, I was calculating in my head, I was like 373, because Alexander takes over, and the Alexander, like, period, or it's Hellenistic period, but that kind of time frame starts in 333 BCE.
And, like we know before, ends with Cleopatra.
Yeah. So, yeah, anyway. So he's quite young, but he becomes the biggest army. The band is destroyed. It no longer has the band. It never comes back up. But it is... So in Chaeronea, there is a lion statue to commemorate the... I think it's in Chaeronea, or whatever. I think it's there. It's a lion statue to commemorate the Sacred Band. And there's some debate on who put it there and what it's there for. Some people say that it was put there because Philip was so impressed by the Sacred Band that he decided to bury them side by side and put the lion up to memorialize it. And their thought that these are the Sacred Band and not Macedonian soldiers is because Macedonians were cremated. So there wouldn't have been bodies to bury. Some people say that's not true, whatever. I don't really know. That's kind of one of the accepted
theories
out there. That'd be kind of nice if they were. But that's the end of the Sacred Band of Thebes.
Did all of the Sacred Band die?
Yeah, they just wiped them out.
So Philip, the Macedonians wiped out the Sacred Band.
Yeah, I don't know if they completely wiped out the Theban army with Athenian army, or like mercenaries, but the Sacred Band was definitely wiped out, and they said there was some kind of number that bodies they found under the lion, and it was something like 290. There was a couple of missing, but it was like a big enough number that they were like, okay, I think this is the Sacred Band, because
it was close enough
to 300 that they just assumed. But also Philip would have been, I mean, I don't know if it's for sure, but I would assume that Philip would be very impressed by the type of band that the Sacred Band was because of their military power or prowess, and because they were able to defeat Sparta in a hoplite, which is not, or Spartans hoplite. I guess I don't know if the Thebans were
Destroyed.
No. I don't know if they were fighting in hoplites. Maybe they were. I'm not really sure. But to break through Spartans or Sparta's hoplite is like huge, major, because that thing was tight, hard to get into. But now they have the sarissas in. So now Alexander brings the sarissas, which are long enough to now over.
Alexander's team didn't have. Did they fight in a phalanx or just? Or did they?
Well, Alexander said he's the one that started that one, I believe. If ever our Greek Macedonian war, like his whole area of study is Macedonian War. If he ever sees this, he's gonna be like, "What the fuck?"
He's like, "You guys, we did a whole class on this."
He's like, "We literally went there
and learned about all this." I can't remember. The military stuff is so boring.
Yeah, it's too much. Let's see. Did Philip's army?
I also have some questions. I think we should explain more of what the band was. So basically, it was we probably already discussed this, but the band was 300 individual men, and they formed. It was formed by 150 gay couples, and the idea was that the men would fight harder, stronger, longer, better if they were fighting for their love.
Yeah, if they were fighting for someone else.
That's the idea. How long did they... Like, they weren't around for very long then, right?
Maybe, like, it was... I think what? It was, like...
Was it a single group of 300 men? Or, like, they replenished them?
No, I believe it was a single...
They weren't, like, every... It wasn't longer than, like, a lifespan.
No, I think it was only, like, a few years.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to see what a phalanx is versus a hoplite, or if they're the same thing.
I think hoplites are the soldiers. Phalanx is the structure.
Yeah, so they did fight. Macedon did fight in that way. I'm going to look also up how long. I thought I wrote it down, but apparently I didn't. Sacred. But I think it's like 375 until like 373 or something of that nature. It wasn't around for very long. Okay, no, that can't be true because the earliest band... Okay, so I think the earliest mention of it is... Oh, just kidding. We're going back in time. We're counting backwards. Okay, so earliest role is in... Oh! Okay, so I was... BCE confuses the shit out of me. So, the first earliest mention of it is in 324 BCE, which is happening after the band has already been disassembled. So, the Battle of Leuctra was in 371 BCE, and the Battle of Chaeronea was in 338. That makes much more sense because he starts. Okay, so it was over a long time. I guess
no, that's only like 40 years.
40 years, so it is probably like the span of a life. They lived a lot later back then. Who was it? Like one of the Ptolemies was like 80 or something fighting. I think it was one of Alexander's commanders. Like they were all fought so much longer.
So, do the math. 371 to 338.
Okay, math.
So I'm guessing it's just one band then. They weren't like... It wasn't like a long-lasting tradition.
I don't think so. It was
basically like an experiment.
Yeah.
And then Plutarch comes, so 33 years.
So that's basically a lifespan.
Yeah. So Plutarch comes... So the first mention of this...
is in the oration by an Athenian... lawgiver?
Comes like 14 years after the band has already been annihilated.
Yes. And that happens a lot in history in general. Like, we don't have... Primary sources are very difficult because...
Especially ancient primary sources.
Yes, because even in, like, I know we talked about in our Cleopatra one that all of the information we have about Mark Antony, it was all written after his death and after he had already lost. So it's all in the view of his enemies, and it's mostly propaganda, so we don't really know anything like that. So some of this could be changed. Obviously, we don't know for sure that this happened, but...
Because the first writings that we have of it come from 20 years later, 14 years later, however many years. So it's a primary source document in that it's close to the time period that it was written, but, like, even some of them, like, stuff from, I think from, like, Mount Vesuvius and stuff, some of that stuff is, some of the writings that we have from it are happening 100 years, come from, like, recollections 50 to 100 years later. So a lot of the stuff we know is just conjecture.
Yeah, well, that's with anything. Plus, the Library of Alexandria got burned down, so we know nothing about anything.
True.
Anyway, that's the Sacred Band. Just a bunch of gay boys fighting for their lives. They were, well, some of them might have been boys.
They were probably, like...
What is fighting age, like 18 to 50? I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I know that's not as, it wasn't as interesting as I thought it was going to be. But maybe this whole month we continue doing gay topics.
My next one I want to do is, that vampire lady who used to take baths in the blood of children.
Okay, no. Let's do her a different time. Let's keep this for, let's do Pride Month, Gay Month.
No!
Yes, also there's like almost nothing about her. Her story is very short. Because I did it in History's Mysteries. Fine. Okay, anyway, we can maybe do like a compilation of a couple of different female serial killers.
Yeah, we can do that.
Anyway, we'll pick a gay topic. If you have one that you want to do, let us know. Because remember, we didn't do it for Black History Month, and I felt really bad about it.
We did one. It's also Asian APPIH. I don't know the letters. I'm so sorry.
Anyway.
I'm going to Google it because I feel bad. Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So maybe we'll do
2 and 2?
Something like that.
So, all of that. If you find something you want specifically, just put it in the comments. Or don't, whatever.
This one's a little bit shorter, but I think it's a nice refresher from...
It's 30 minutes, like everything else.
All the other ones are like 40 minutes, and I cut them down to 30 minutes. Not really. But the other ones are a little bit longer. Usually.
Anyway, we gotta go to a baseball game.
T-ball.
T-ball.
For 4-year-olds. So
sorry.
Alright. Have a great day.
Bye.
Like, subscribe, do all the things, and...
I'll put this on Spotify in the next couple of days.
Yeah. See you next time.